Hi, and welcome to week 4. You guys are doing great with the ball rig, but now we're going to move forward to a slightly more complicated rig. It's only a half rig, it's just the legs, but we're going to be looking at a walk cycle. Now, before we get started on the walk, I wanted to make sure we all understood what a rig is. We are not going to be rigging any models or characters in this class. That's a complete other class. But it's important to know rigging terms. And I like this definition. I would recommend you look at this website as well. Oops, not this one. Science Behind Pixar. They go into some interesting stuff and there's a video. But I like the definition that digital rigs are the virtual bones, joints, and muscles that allow models to move. It's kind of like the strings of a marionette. A good rig has just the right amount of flexibility. Without the right controls, the animators can't create the poses that they need. Too much flexibility makes posing the model too time-consuming. So really, what a rig is it's taking, spoiler alert, there's our rig, but it's taking any character, any model, any mesh that we create. This is not a good model, but with this, I only have the flexibility to move it as a whole. Yes, I can go into face modes and move the faces, but let's say I wanted this to kind of lean to the side and lean to the side. I can't really do that. And a rig allows us to do that. So again, these are joints. I'm just going to put it to the side here. These are joints. This is what a joint chain looks like. Again, I'm not going to get too into the details here, but wherever you have these kind of ball joint looking things, it looks kind of like bones and joints. Wherever you have those, we can actually move the rig. So we can put this joint chain in our model. You know, if I were to kind of look at a front view here, I can create joints inside my mesh. You can kind of see them in there, right? And then what that would do is it would allow me to select the joint to move the actual mesh. Now, I know we're going to get even more complicated here. This is when controllers come into play, because instead of grabbing the joints, we grab the ring kind of controllers that are around our mesh, and that moves the joint, which moves the mesh, right? It's a lot, and I understand that. So let me know if you want to discuss it further. I'm going to open up the leg rig again. If yours open up with double outliner, you can just put your mouse over this dotted line and slide it to close it. But so we can see I have geometry here, right? This looks like a sphere, and then we've got maybe a box here. Inside of that are our joints. Now, they're going to be hidden, so you can't actually mesh with them, but see, these are the joints that control it. I'm going to hide them so we don't do that. But to move this rig, we use the controllers. And that is all part of rigging. So riggers take this mesh, put joints in it, put controllers around it, assign them, give them parameters so maybe you can't break it, and then we are able to animate with it. So I want you to look at these two sites. These are just some rigging terms. Again, I don't need you to really memorize these. I just want you to be aware of what a rig is. We're going to look at inverse and forward kinematics a little bit later in the term, but it's nice to get to know it now. You can see kind of the joint structure without the mesh here. Okay? So again, take a look at these. We will talk about them further as we go along. And then what is a keyframe? You know, I've mentioned setting keyframes, But what are they? You know, there we go. Here we go. So keyframes in computer information. In computer animation, very similar to hand-drawn, what a keyframe is, and you can read that above, and I'm going to go over it a little bit here. But it tells the computer exactly where an object needs to be at a certain point in time. And then, luckily, Maya is going to kind of make those in-betweens for us, and we can go back in and edit those to make them a little bit more successful. I really like Studio Binder, but here's their definition. Something that defines a starting and or ending point of a smooth transition. That something can be a drawing, an animation, or a particular frame of a shot when dealing with film or video. So again, if I'm going to swing a golf club, okay, my keyframe might be me starting with the club down by the ball. Then the next keyframe is going to be the club all the way back, ready to swing. Then it's going to be the impact with the ball, and then that follow through where it's on my other shoulder. Of course, we're going to add more keys into that, but it allows us to work in there. So sometimes I wouldn't say these days, but it can be used in video and editing. They originated in animation. You can watch kind of some of these videos. Generally, lead animators were known to do the keyframings, and then it would go to an in-betweener that would draw the panels that were in between those keyframes. It's just the place that you want to start, right? We make our keyframes, Maya in-betweens for us, and then we go back and kind of fix up those in-betweens. All right, so you can take a look at those videos, help make a little bit more sense of what we've got going on. Now, we're going to do a walk cycle, okay? We're only going to focus on the legs, obviously, because we only have a leg rig. We will be doing a full character rig, but I want to make sure that this makes sense before we move forward. You want to get reference. Okay, whether you walk around while you get your friend, a sibling, whatever, but you want to get reference. We want to see how the body moves. Okay, again, our arms are going to swing opposite of our legs. We're not going to focus on that. There's a lot that goes on with the shoulder to hip, kind of a contrapposto situation, but you want to look at how our legs are functioning. And after this one plays, you can actually see a female reference. It's interesting to see how weight is carried differently between the two. But look at the arc in the foot, right? We pick it up, comes down. Pick it up, comes down. Or, a U kind of arc within the wrists. I have these two sites here. Walking animation for beginners. I think it's just kind of helpful. This is going to be the most important. We're going to talk about it in a second, but every walk cycle has contact, passing, but then we get a little bit more into it, and there's contact, down, passing, and up. So read through that one for you. Here's the contact, down, passing, up. Contact, down, passing, and up. Again, we're going to talk about this, but start getting used to this because these are your key frames. And see, this one doesn't have arms. So you can see our contact pose. Our front leg is straight, just a slight bend in the back. We're on the ball of our foot and the heel. Down, we bend down. Passing, our leg is starting to pass the front leg. Up, we're on the tiptoe, and then we can go right into our contact pose with the other foot forward. Animator's Survival Kit is an excellent book. I highly recommend, if you have any interest in animating, that you purchase it. I have a copy of the book. It is explained very well in a way that you can kind of understand it, and it really takes a deep look into animation. This is just the cover of the book has all these characters, and so they animated walk cycles between all of the characters. Okay, so just even the different arm positions and how much each one swings, how high the feet go for each character. So once you get the base walk cycle down, which is what we're going to do, then you can really expand upon it to have different character stylized walks. This is a nice video, 100 walks. Okay, just to get some inspiration for you. There are a lot of videos that you can kind of look through here. Then, of course, Alan Becker. We looked at videos from them for the principles. This is their kind of look at walk cycles.
A walk cycle is a looping animation of a walking character, which starts with the first foot, goes to the second.
I do just want to mention before we look at it, there is a looping cycle which stays in place and just kind of, it's almost like they're walking on a treadmill. And there's a forward moving cycle where you're actually moving across the screen, and we're going to look at both of them.
Foot and ends back on the first foot. We're going to cover run cycles in the next video since there is just so much to cover with just walk cycles. So walk cycles can be scary for beginning animators because it seems like there are so many poses to memorize. But if you break it down into simpler components, it becomes much easier to wrap your head around. So instead of thinking of a walk cycle as 12 different poses to memorize, think of it as 2 poses. The first pose is called the contact pose because it is where the foot contacts the ground. The second pose is called the passing pose because it is where the other foot directly passes the first foot. To complete the cycle, we need to repeat these 2 poses and reverse them in order to let both feet take a step. So just from these 4 drawings, we already feel like the character is walking. We could call this done. But in order to make the walk cycle more realistic, there are 2 more poses that we should add, called the up and down poses. These are where the head is highest and where it's lowest in the cycle. The down pose happens right after the contact pose, and the up pose happens after the passing pose. If we didn't add these poses, the walk would look very flat, with no bounce at all. So if you're just starting out, it's okay to just use 2 poses, but know that ultimately there are 4 poses that go into each step of a walk cycle. When making a character walk across a screen, some people will make the walk cycle first and move the cycle across the screen. While this will save you some work, it can sometimes look mechanical and slidey, like a video game character. A better solution is to hold the cycle in place and have the background move instead. Otherwise, you would animate the whole sequence from start to finish. This gives you the most control. It's important to map out where you want each step to take place and space them out evenly, both on the stage as well as on the timeline. Drawing someone walking across the screen can be one of the most annoying things to animate if it's not organized well. Place the contact poses first, add the passing poses, and then fill in the up and down poses. The arms can be added at the same time
We're
as the
going to do
legs,
this a
or they can be
slightly
added
different way,
afterwards to simplify and
but it's
isolate each
important to think
process.
about.
The arms are farthest apart from each other on the down pose, and closest together on the passing pose. They should be opposite to the legs, meaning the right arm is in front when the right leg is in back, and vice versa. You can also have the arms doing whatever you want throughout the walk. Just put the main poses in first and fill in the in-betweens. When animating a walk cycle from the front, the same rules apply, except the two poses you want to draw first are now the up and down poses, because these are more clearly distinguishable from the front, compared to the passing and contact poses. Personality can be added to a walk cycle by adjusting a few factors. These factors include timing, position, and offset. To give our character a sad, depressed walk, let's hunch him forward, make his contact pose and down pose take much longer, and droop his arms down low. His up and down poses should be close in height to take away the bounce. To give our character a happy, proud walk, let's lean his body back and change the timing to emphasize his contact pose and bring his arms way up. Then let's offset his arm movement so that they are 2 frames ahead of the legs in order to make it seem like he's leading with his arms, giving him a more powerful attitude. In order to make him look relaxed, we just need to offset the arms in the other direction and make them lag behind the rest of the body by 2 frames. Last, let's lean him forward. Now he looks pretty chill. So that's all I've got for walk cycles, but before we end, I wanted to announce my new Patreon page. Patreon is...
So, let's look at what we're doing for this week. Download the rig here. You can always re-download the file if you save over it, but once you get working, make sure to increment your saves and name your file appropriately. All right, you're going to create 2 walk cycles. You're going to do a normal forward-moving human walk cycle and a normal looping human walk cycle. Okay, for the forward-moving, you must have 4 steps. So left foot front, right foot front, left foot front, right foot front, complete. You only need 2 steps for a looping cycle because it loops, so it won't matter if you've done it more than that. You'll submit 2 Maya files and 2 play blasts. Okay, so this is your contact down, passing up, and contact again. This is from the Animator Survival Kit. So if you Google walk cycle kit, not kid, we can see this page becomes important here. Okay, this is what we are looking at. So here we are. All of these poses actually overlap because once I set my foot down in a spot, it does not move until I pick that foot up. But this image is spread out so that you can actually see what the poses are, okay? This is the exact reference I would use, okay? So we're going to start with contact, then down, passing, and up. So you're going to have these are your 4 key frames for every step, okay? So when we're doing the forward moving cycle, you have 4 steps and 4 keys per step. So I should see 16 red lines. Okay, here's some timing for you. You can try to match this. You can do a walk on 17s. I recommend kind of spacing it out and thinking about, timing your walk. How long does it take you to do 4 steps? This is a step in half a second, so that's pretty extreme. So I space it out or almost double this. So we can animate a 24 frame step. Okay? But basically what we're going to do is you need to first get used to using this rig. Okay, this circular controller bends the knees and it adjusts the hip placement. Now remember they talked about a sine wave here with the head where it's lowest on the down, highest on the up. We're going to do that for the hips. Okay, so whatever it's going to be for contact, it's going to come down, passing, and up. You don't really want to break the rig. So even though this can go higher and separate from the foot, you want to keep it as close to the foot as possible. These little stars out here control the knee placement. If you move the rig all right, and then we've got our foot, and well, we've got the left foot and the right foot. Things to pay attention to. So if I click on this outer ring of the foot, I can scroll down in my channel box over here. If you don't see your channel box, you generally can click through these tabs here, or you can hit Control A to toggle through them. But you can see I've got foot roll here. And if I click on the word foot roll, move my mouse over the viewport, and then middle mouse click and drag, you can see that I can roll onto the toe or onto the heel. So you're going to want to use this foot roll over like rotating the rig. It's much better. The rig was made to do this foot roll, so you want to make sure you're actually using it. You can see we can click on this toe controller. If you do move, it's grayed out. It's because the rig has been made that specific way. We can rotate this. I find that using your main controller here is generally enough. Same thing for the heel control. Heel, you can rotate that way, but I would just rather use our foot controller in the negative to get the heel up. Okay? So you really shouldn't touch these two smaller circles. All the foot animation can be done with this foot roll here. You can also type in numbers, but I find it hard to know what number I'm actually going to kind of use. So we've got our left foot and our right foot, those main controllers, the knee controllers, and this like hip controller. Each of these can have their own timeline. Not sure why I have a key set there. Here we go. So you're going to have to get used, maybe doing a click and drag to set a key when you want it. So I'm going to go to frame 1. I'm going to look at a side view to start out with. If you're not able to get it, we can click this for viewport button. And I'm going to actually move my character from the left to the right because I think that will help me a little bit more. I'm going to go to Show and uncheck Joints so I know I don't hit that. And I'm going to set up my rig here. You can go, instead of turning the rig around, right now we're at the right side, so I'm going to click the arrows to get to the left side. Okay, you just click over here. You can also go to Panels, Orthographic, Side, or you can go down here to Left. Okay, so now we're going to get started. I'm going to use this, the axis, as my ground plane because you do not want to put the foot or the heel or the toe through the ground plane. Just like with the ball, if you want to create an actual plane to make sure you don't go through the surface, you can do that. So now I'm doing the contact pose. So I'm going to move one foot forward and one foot back. Now with the contact pose, and again, just keep going back and forth for this and looking. The front leg is straight on the heel. Okay, so my front leg is straight and on the heel. So I'm going to click on the foot roll on the heel, click on this and move it forward so that it's straight. Now, again, I can kind of break the rig. And what I've found that with your contact pose, you want to give a slight bend in the knee. If you keep it straight or over, like kind of overextended, it's going to look like it's popping when you're walking. So give a slight bend. And then the back, we're on the ball of the foot. I'll move this back. You want to make sure that the hips are always centered over the feet. So if you find that you have to bring this back or forward, down a little, keep it centered. Now this rig is a bit of a challenge because it has very long legs and, very long feet. Like the feet are about the same as almost to the knee. So it does take a little bit of working with. But once you get it and you feel comfortable with it, I'm going to click and drag over everything and hit S. You can test by moving forward in your timeline. Nothing should move. Now I need to go down to the down pose. Again, you're up to you to determine timing, but move to the time slider, and then we're going to create our down. So obviously our hips need to go down. The front foot is flat, so we can bring this to 0. Back, we're on our tippy toe, so even further than we were before. Now, by doing this, the hips are kind of too far back. Remember, again, these need to stay centered. Okay? Set key. And then just kind of watch the transition. Cool. Passing. Now, with your passing, all of your weight is on this foot. This front foot does not move. Okay, it is flat. We are putting weight on it, so you cannot move this. We're going to move the body and our back foot to be over it. So I'm going to remove some of this. Well, we can leave it a little bit. You may want to give a little bit of a rotation here. Remember, I say always use the foot roll first. And we want this leg to be more straight. Now, see how I have the back leg and the front leg overlapping? You don't want to set a key there. You want to give us a silhouette to work with. So kind of like a figure 4. If you have them overlapping, when you play your animation, you're not going to know which leg is forward, which leg is back. Then again, slide through. All right, cool. And now we're going to do our up pose. So again, the hips should be up the highest. That flat foot, we're going to go on the toe, and we're going to bring our back foot forward. Oops. So I'm going to roll this onto the toe because I know that this foot can't move, so I have to position everything else to work with that. Again, check my references. Maybe I want to do a little bit, then bring it down a little bit. Set my key. Oh, look at, I was not in the right spot on my timeline. So we need to move forward on our timeline to get to the up. We go to like frame 20. Let's try it one more time. Set a key. I'm going to add just a little bit more toe roll to this so that there's more movement. But by doing that, I'm going to need to make sure my hips are centered over my feet. So a little bit more forward. Setting the key. And now we're going to do contact. It's the same exact pose, but with the other foot forward. So we got to bring our hips down a little bit, right, to be able to do it. This front foot, which started out as our back foot, I'm going to reposition this back to 0 so that it's flat. I'm going to put this at 0 just to start off. We'll put this on the ground. Do a there, foot roll up. Might need to move this forward a little bit more because I can bring this down. Slight bend. And our back, we're on our toe, so this is looking good, except I want to move this all forward. I'm going to set a key. I haven't really done any. Look at what I did again. Do as I say, not as I do. So we're going to move forward on our timeline. and position our contact. Sorry, please ignore my dog. That's Norman. Slight bend. And again, I'm going to set this key. Now we want to give some movement to that back foot. So I'm going to up the foot roll a little bit. And when I up the foot roll, I can see that my body isn't centered. I want to bring all of this forward. And then set. Okay, now once we do the same exact thing on this front foot can't move because I'm putting weight on it. So you're only going to bring it down to the ground, okay? My number one pet peeve is sliding feet. What would a sliding foot look like? Let's look at our keys here. A sliding foot would look like this. Apparently I just broke my rig. So make sure you are saving and saving often. Sometimes, yeah, it doesn't work sometimes because it doesn't understand the height of the body. So I just moved the body up and down. That fixed that. Do the same thing. This is a sliding foot. So it's like it's on ice. And that's kind of a big way to tell if someone is new to animation or not. You want to plant feet when there actually is weight on them and not move them. So see, once I put weight on that foot, it stays there. Okay, so this is the forward moving cycle, and I've just completed one step. You will do this for 4 steps. So this is me stepping on my right, then you'll need to do stepping on the left, stepping on the right, stepping on the left. You'll do a play blast for that, and then you'll need a new Maya file to do your looping one. Now the good thing is, the looping one is the exact same keyframes, except we're gonna center them over the 0, 0, 0 axis. So I'll save this, fuller, forward moving, and then maybe I'll just open up the leg rig again. For my looping one. So for looping, we can still use our side. You know, maybe I want to do left again. And I'm going to hide my joints just so they're not in the way. I see everything. So with the looping cycle, you're going to do all of the same keyframes, but you're going to keep them centered over the 0, 0, 0 point in the axis. I may have a keyframe saved at 25, so make sure that you delete it. So body is always going to be over the center. So for our contact, we're going to bring our foot forward and bring this foot back. We got to add our foot roll and our heel. Boop. And then you position it again just so that it's centered over the axis. I'm going to bring this down so I don't have that knee pop. Give it a slight bend here. Set my keyframes. Then I'm going to go to frame 8 and we're going to do the down. So bringing this down. A little bit more foot roll. If you see, it kind of looks like we're going more towards the front. So we got to bring these back a little. Now this will have sliding feet, 100%. Then we'll go for our passing. This foot is going to be centered. Remember, we're almost straight. And then again, we want to make that kind of figure 4 so we don't have overlap. Give it a slight rotation. Back just a little bit. And then up. We're going to go on our toe here. Center this, so I'm going to pull this back a little. Looks like I'm a little too up. All right, so now we have contact down, passing up. So see, it looks like I'm on a treadmill. And with this one, you only need to do 2 steps because it'll loop on its own because we're not moving forward. So, you know, if I were to do left and right and go to do the left again, it would be the exact same thing I had at the beginning. So you'll just do 2 steps, staying centered at the 0, 0, 0 axis for your looping, and your forward moving, again, 4 steps moving forward. Pay attention to these key frames. This is what every walk cycle uses. So contact down, passing up, contact with the other foot forward. Okay? So 2 myofiles, 2 play blasts. Those are your 2 cycles. Let me know how it goes. And then you're at the end of the week. So have a wonderful week.